Blessings, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Restoration. I'm your co-host, Geneva Hollis, here with our host, Apostle Don Hughes. This week, we are starting the fifth parable, which means we are starting the fifth chapter in Apostles' book, The Kingdom of Heaven is Like. For a donation of $20 or more, you can get a signed copy from the apostle himself. Just be sure and include your mailing address when you make that donation. You can also get a copy of the book through Amazon. Joe Henry will be putting that information up on the screen throughout the broadcast. We encourage you, please get you your own copy of the book so that you can follow along with us line by line and come to understand more fully these parables that Jesus taught, that he began with the kingdom of heaven is like. Apostle, let's get into it.
I'll tell you how you introduced me, man. You said the apostle. I was like, dang, okay, well, that's a heavy introduction today. We love to have fun and cut up, and we do it, and we're very comfortable when we share together. Her and I have been doing this a long time now, but and her and Joe know me. He's our producer. He's behind the scenes. I don't do this very often. But this morning, when I was praying about the programs today, I felt really strong, Geneva, that I need to share this for somebody who will watch this program or is watching this program. And it's a challenge, but it's in my heart heavy, and I don't think I'm going to get some peace till I release it. Somebody's watching this program or going to watch it in the next few days. Sometimes people will, because of work, they'll have to go back and watch it. And there's some things that you've been petitioning the Lord about, and you've gotten discouraged because you really haven't seen the answer. And this is what I heard in my spirit. You'll just have to judge it. If it speaks to you, I believe you'll do the right thing. And here's what I heard in my spirit. The Lord said, you have to release the unforgiveness against that ex, that former relationship that you had that no longer exists. The sad part is many times, Geneva, people like that, the other party's moved on and the other person's still stuck there. And I want to challenge you, if that speaks to your heart, if it pricks your heart, it's not a judgment or condemnation. It's a word from the Lord. He's answering what you've been asking for, but he said, here's the hindrance. Here's the block. Release that. Forgive them. Let it go. And you'll move on with your life. And I believe here's what will happen. I believe the heavens will open up where it seems like they've been brass. And those things that you petitioned the Lord, he's not trying to hold things back from you, but there are biblical principles that we need to apply to get many of the benefits that he's spoken about. So whoever that is, I just trust you're going to do the right thing. You'll hear from the Lord. You'll act on it, and watch the windows of heaven open up for you and bless you. I can't believe, Geneva, we always say this almost every program, but it doesn't get monotonous to me. 71 programs.
Yes.
I mean, my goodness. And folks, over the last year and a half, 2 years, however long we've been going now, we've had so much fun. We have laughed together. We've prayed together. We've cried. We've preached. We've prophesied. We've seen tremendous comments of people when they watch it. Literally, probably tens of thousands, if not 100,000 plus views have been around the world over this program. So we're very honored that people watch, and we would appreciate if you're watching, make a comment on our page where we post this video or on Kingdom First to let us know you're watching, where you're watching from. It'd be a great deal. So Geneva, chapter 5, the fifth kingdom parable. Yeah. And I told you last time we had the program here, when we knew where we were going, I said, this is kind of one of my favorite. And I've actually taught this parable in different services over the years as a meeting, as a service, because I think there's so many profound prophetic things in this parable. And again, it is a kingdom parable. But what's interesting, Geneva, before I have you read, I'm working on my 8th book. And it's called The Kingdom, the Seed, and the Soil. And we'll let you know more about that. It's in the process. Sometime after the first of the year, it'll be released with a study guide. But here's the deal. As I've been writing chapter 6, Geneva, on the new book, and it really applies to this book and what we're teaching, it's like the Holy Spirit reminded me, every time Jesus taught a kingdom parable, he was also releasing, and it's in my new book, a kingdom key to unlocking and opening and experiencing all the things in the kingdom that belong to us. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are the things that take us to that Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first.
And you know what's funny is I will have one entire chapter on that verse, probably 2 or 3 chapters down the road. Yeah, we're going to get into that. So, all right, Geneva, we're talking about the kingdom parable, and we call it the pearl. And we're reading, folks. She'll be reading out of Matthew chapter 13. It's really only 2 verses. And you know what's interesting, Geneva? A lot of these parables that Jesus taught, it was only 2, 3, 4 verses. But man, when you exegete and get into it, the stuff that comes out of it, the revelation, the insight, it's just been boggling our mind. So I'm excited about
wisdom.
Come on, sis, go ahead and let's break this down and get into it today.
Yes. Matthew 13, verse 45 and 46. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who, when he found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it.
You know, even though I've wrote the book and we've talked about it and preached about it, as you were reading that, Geneva, that last line just really jumped out at me. And I know sometimes people don't understand this. Even in prophecy, if you go back and read prophecies, Old Testament, New Testament, many times, prophecies had a dual fulfillment of what we would say. God was saying, this is what I'm going to do, but here's what you've got to do. So even in prophecies, many times there's conditions, or they are conditional, not on God's part, but on, are we willing to act and receive and do? Because when you were reading it, that phrase jumped out. When he recognized the potential in the field, look at the sacrifice he made when Jesus taught this parable. He said he sold all that he had to get it.
Yes.
I mean, to me, and I want your thought on this, doesn't that speak of a serious sacrifice to get something that you know is there that might be buried, but you see its ultimate potential, and you're willing to make a sacrifice, whatever it might be, to get that promise or that miracle? What's your thought on that phrase?
Sacrifice and commitment. Because not only are you willing to sacrifice for it, but you are willing to give up everything else and be committed only to that. That's the problem so many of us have, is we want to hold on to what we got, and we just want to take out a mortgage to get the new thing that is the better thing that we're not going to get the benefits of, because we're still so busy trying to hold on to what we had instead of moving forward into what he has for us.
You know, think about it. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, the oil boom that hit the nation, you know, of course, where I live, you know, Oklahoma, Texas, a lot of those places, tremendous oil reserves. But when they believed they had found through their study the depth of oil in an area, what did they do? They started in faith, honey. They started spending money, sowing money, giving, preparing, building, digging, all of that, many times for months before they hit that mother lode of oil. There was a requirement and a sacrifice and a level of faith they had to step out into to get the, if I can say it this way, the pearl in that field.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, folks, if you've been with us now, we did give this definition 1 or 2 times over the programs, but maybe you're new to our program, or you don't understand this. So why did Jesus teach the parables thing? So let me remind you the definition. A parable is an earthly story, an earthly illustration, an earthly comparison with a heavenly meaning. So this merchantman is a reference to an individual, and he's on a journey. He's on life's journey, if you will. And many describe their life as a journey. But you know what's interesting, Geneva, and I'm going to have you read a couple of these scriptures. The Bible refers to our journey as a race.
Exactly.
So, you know, let's give them some scriptures to confirm that, so we can go where we're going. Read 1 Corinthians 9:24.
Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain.
You know what that says to me too, hon? When he wrote that to the Corinthian church, the problem with America and the world is we think we're in competition and running against everybody else.
Yep.
That's not the case in the kingdom. He said, we're all in this journey. We're all in the race, but my race, Geneva, is not against you. My reward has nothing to do with you. It has to do with, first of all, am I willing to get in the race?
Yeah.
Am I willing to prepare and sacrifice and watch this and train for it? You know, my daughter-in-law, Amy, Donnie's wife, you know her well.
Yeah.
She's run a couple of years back. She ran a half marathon, which is 13 miles.
Wow.
Those of you that have ever run a half marathon or a marathon, 26 miles, you know this is true. You don't train for a week. Now watch this. Sometimes, Geneva, they'll train for a year to run one race. And in the preparation of preparing for that race, they exercise, they eat differently, they run, they buffet their bodies, not at the Buffett Golden Corral, they buffet their bodies in preparation for, you know, that race that only lasts a few hours.
Yes.
And what I've heard, I did run years ago, but what I've heard is they've learned in training when they get to that point where they call it the runner's wall, where maybe 5, 8, 10 miles into that long race, it seems like they hit a wall and they don't have anything left. They think they don't have anything left in them. But because of their training and their preparation and good coaching, they realize I've hit a wall and I'm going to knock this wall down because I haven't finished my race.
Yes.
I want you and I, hun, to get to the end of our life and be like the Apostle Paul, that he said, I've finished my course.
Yes.
I've run my race.
Yes.
I've accomplished what Papa gave me to do. I'm now ready for my reward, and I'm now ready to go home. You know, so, I mean, you read it there. Paul said, listen, we're in this journey called a race. But what I want them to get today, Geneva, is that they're not racing against the listen, Pastor, you're not racing against the church down the street to see who has the biggest parking lot and the most people. We're individually in races, but then when we get in churches, we are in a corporate race, but it's not against another church. It's us fulfilling the corporate vision of the church, like you and I have individual visions for our life, for our callings, for our destinies. So he gives another scripture. You know, people still fuss and feud over who wrote the book of Hebrews, and I really don't care. It's in there. And to me, it's not important who wrote it. It's important what the person that wrote it said. And so to give another view of it, another side of the coin, if you will, read what Hebrews 12:1 says, kind of referring to this race, this journey.
Yes. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and be the sin which doth so easily beset us.
So notice, first of all, his encouragement.
Yeah.
Even though you're running your race, Geneva, you're not in it alone.
Yes.
The Bible said that we have a great cloud of witnesses. if you'll exegete that, folks, and research it, it's talking about Bible characters, Old and New Testament. It's talking about your parents, your grandparents, your family members that have been long in eternity, but you're related to. And here's the encouragement. And sometimes we forget this, Geneva, when we need encouragement, that we've got this cloud of family and Bible people that have already run their race. They're enjoying their reward, but they want us to fulfill our race. And they're there in a crowd. And what are they doing? If we could hear them, they're saying, come on, Geneva, come on, baby. You've come this far. It ain't over. You got 3 more hurdles, and then you're going to cross the finish line. Keep going, keep going. You can do it. You can make it. You know what's sad, honey, is some people don't have any witnesses on the earth to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Only the ones that have gone before, because they're all so wrapped up in themselves. They don't feel like they have the time to encourage. And yet the Bible tells us to encourage one another.
Yes.
It tells us to be our brother's keeper. So, I mean, he said, and this is interesting how you read it. He said, because we've got this group encouraging us, he said, get rid of any weight.
Yes.
I like to say it this way, any dead weight or any weight you're carrying that could trip you up in this race or this journey. And when I say this, sometimes I know kind of people raise an eyebrow, but honey, you and I have been in this kingdom thing too long, and you know this is true. Sometimes that weight is a person in a relationship you got to let go. Yeah,
absolutely.
What's your thought on this?
That's absolutely true. And that's what, again, the letting go of everything behind to move forward into his purpose and plan is those small steps of obedience and seeing the other side of, because it can be painful sometimes.
Come on.
You know, those relationships ending or whatever. But knowing that what's on the other side of that is so much greater than anything we've experienced to this point. It's that faith, that trust.
Come on.
Just trust.
Have you ever thought about this in that verse? The last phrase said, lay aside every weight. And notice the word sin is not plural there. It says the sin.
Yes.
Which so easily can get us off track or beset us, King James word, to get us off track. You ever thought about this before? I wonder if the sin in life's journey or race is to become impatient in the process.
Yes. Yes. Getting ahead or looking behind.
Yeah.
Either
you
one.
know, because he's very specific. He's not saying plural like there's a bunch. He's saying there's one thing that can trip you up in this journey called life or this race, and it's becoming impatient.
Yeah.
You know,
taking your eyes off of the source.
Yeah. And you know what? You know, those people that run, it's almost like when they break through that wall, it's like they get what that some call, they get a second wind. It's like they get a second wind in the natural. Well, honey, we got something greater than that in the spiritual, because we have the pneuma, the wind, the breath of God, that in our race, if we get weary, if we get winded, he re-winds, refuels, refires, refreshes us so we can get through and over that wall that seemingly is trying to hinder that race and that thing that we're going through. Any thought on that before we go to the next?
The thing that I was just sitting here thinking, and I've never raced, but I have seen races. And I was thinking about, you have people along the route, especially on those long races like that, who provide water to keep the runners hydrated. And if you've ever noticed, those people who are providing the water, they get that cup of water right in front of the face of the runner. That he will take it and run. Now, why is that? Because if I was running and thirsty, because I'm not disciplined, I would probably be looking around and see that water long before I got to it. But these racers, because they are focused and trained, they are focused on that goal, the end, so to speak. So much so that they don't even see the water unless it is put right in front of their face, so they can know this is something I have to take. This is something I have to receive at this moment.
So they're giving them a water, a power drink, a power bar, ball. But watch this. And I've watched those same races like you. If they're running a full marathon, 26 miles, they have friends and family strategically placed along that route.
Yes.
To do the very thing you're talking about. Doesn't that kind of coincide with the cloud of witnesses?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So you know where they are, and they know where they are, and if you run that route in practice for months and months and months, you made mental notes of, okay, at this point, I got weary, I got sidetracked, and I've got a feeling the runner told the friends and family, be at mile marker 6, be at mile marker, whatever, for that encouragement to come from them. Yes. We got a few minutes left. I want to read this next paragraph because we're talking about the word pearl here from a kingdom perspective. And some will get a kick out of this. We kind of laugh at this one too. But the word pearl in the Greek is the Greek word margaritas. I didn't say margaritas like frozen or iced. Someone said, oh, I want to get in that race. There's a margarita. Yeah. No, that's a different type of race. But anyway, it's the Greek word margaritas. The pearl is the Greek word margaritas. And listen to this. With its simplest definition is a pearl oyster, which we know about. But here's the thing that I put in the book, Geneva. It also translates as a proverb or a word of great value. The pearl is a literal pearl, but what the pearl produces, and we'll get into that probably next week's program, is a proverb or a pearl, or a word of great value. The book of Proverbs in the Bible, in the Old Testament. So I heard a preacher one time teach all of every chapter in Proverbs as pillars of wisdom to get you through life.
Yes.
Each of those is pillars. So Proverbs, words of great value, are in the experiences of that pearl going through its metamorphosis to produce that oyster to produce a pearl. Yes. As people in God's kingdom, our lives, we know this. The Bible said we're going from faith to faith and glory to glory. I believe, Geneva, if we'll keep that in line and in context of the scriptures you're reading, the journey, the race is from faith to faith. The journey in the race is from glory to glory. So now watch this. As we're in life's journey, our faith is supposed to be growing and developing because we're going from one level to another, from one level to another. The level and the weight of the kabod and the glory of God should be getting stronger the more we're in the journey, because he said we go from faith to faith. Read Romans 1:17, and then we'll begin to close down.
For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith.
The just shall, notice the word live. It's not visit. It is a lifestyle, folks. You live from faith to faith. We live by faith. By whose faith? Listen, it ain't your faith. God loves you so much, he gave us his faith. We live by the faith of the Son of God. His faith, he gave it to us. Now, let me challenge you if you're religious. If it took faith, Geneva, to get saved, and we didn't have any, then he had to give you his faith before you were even born again to use it to accept him.
What a paradox.
I mean, come on, somebody. I mean, think about the goodness
Yeah.
and the mercy of God that would and the Bible said the worlds were framed by the word and by faith.
Yes.
So listen, God gave us his so we could use it to go from faith to faith and glory to glory in this life that
Yes.
we're living. We got about a little over 2 minutes, Geneva. Give me some final thoughts. Talk about how they can get this book, and then we'll close out today's program.
Yes. This is just so powerful. And it's like we were talking about at the beginning of the program, 2 verses, 2 little verses. And just consider the depth that we have covered in this first program covering this particular parable. And we've not even gotten past the first page in your book of this chapter.
How does that happen? That's right.
Every now and then.
Yeah, come on.
We remind you, please get your own copy of the book so that you can follow along with us. The title of the book is The Kingdom of Heaven is Like. You can send a $20 donation or more to Apostle Don Hughes. The ways to give are on the screen. And be sure and include your address so that he can mail you your signed copy of the book.
Yes.
You can also get a copy on Amazon. Please get your own so that you can study with us, and then come back and join us next week, because you don't want to miss the depth of revelation that comes from these kingdom parables.
And you know, Geneva, and you know this, people won't know it if they don't have the book. We wrote this and set it up where at the end of each chapter, it's called reflections, where people, how did this parable speak or apply to you? We have places where they can write their own notes. What actions did you take today, this week, this month to apply these principles? These are the actions that I took that were completed. You write them down. And then in closure on each chapter, they can write down their thoughts, feelings, and emotions from completing these actions and acting on these kingdom parables. So pastors, you might want to consider this. We've sold in bulk to churches where they would teach this on their Wednesday night Bible studies. They would use it in their small groups, their Bible fellowships. And you could teach it. I mean, you could teach this for as long as you want or as short as you want, depending on how in depth. And I've already got everything laid out, every outline done here for you. You just do your own study and your own research. Tell them goodbye, Geneva. We got 15 seconds.
All right. Be sure and go to rhsom.com. Check out the school. We love you. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Blessings, everyone.
God bless you. See you next Friday.
Thank you for watching Kingdom First TV.